But I did give myself permission to dream big, and I'm all the better for it. And if that's one piece of advice I would give to anyone.
In 2010, FX began developing the film Justified. Their problem with the pilot episode was simple. They needed a villain. That character was Boyd Crowder, a dangerous white supremacist with a grenade launcher. In Elmore Leonard's original novel, he was a minor character written to die at the end of the first episode. In Hollywood logic, this was a one-time role. Appear, cause trouble, then disappear. They just needed an actor with a southern accent and the right look, and they chose Walton Goggins. Initially, everything went according to plan. Goggins had the look, voice, and demeanor of a typical villain. He was chosen to do his job and then leave the story. But when the camera started rolling, everything changed. Goggins didn't play Boyd as a simple criminal. He brought something entirely different to the character. Unexpected charisma and depth. Boyd became more like an extremist preacher than a criminal. Dangerous, intelligent, and strangely charismatic. When the pilot episode was shown, the audience's reaction surprised the entire team. They didn't want Boyd dead. They wanted to see more of this character. That changed the entire plan. The script was rewritten, the season was adjusted, and a character originally intended to appear only once was kept on for a long time. Boyd Crowder didn't just survive the first episode. He became a central character of the entire series. This is unusual in Hollywood, because the industry likes clarity. Heroes are perfect, villains are one-dimensional. But Walton Goggins doesn't fit any mold. He has an unconventional face, sharp, angular, and expressive, not a typical male lead, nor a predictable villain. And it was that very difference that made him the kind of actor Hollywood couldn't easily replace, despite their repeated attempts to mold him. His face had features that were too perfect, too pale, creating a smile that was more like a threat than a greeting. He was too tense to be a romantic lead, yet too charismatic to be just a background thug. So for a decade, Hollywood didn't know where to place him. In the 1990s, he fell into what actors call the ballet phase, professional extras. He was the number one guard, the number two thug. If the script needed someone to yell a racist line and then get knocked out by the main character, Goggins would be called upon. Even his managers tried to fix him. They told him to drop his Georgia accent. They told him to tone down the ferocity. They wanted to temper his personality so that he would fit the mold of traditional police dramas. But Goggins did the opposite. Instead of blending in, he became even stranger. In 2001, tired of waiting for his chance, he and his partner Ray McKinnon produced a short film called The Accountant. It was a dark, bizarre work with a Southern Gothic feel mixed with dark comedy. The film won an Oscar. Think about it. Walton Goggins had an Oscar, but still couldn't get a casting call for a leading role. The industry recognized his talent, but they still couldn't get past his face. They needed a place to unleash all that chaotic energy. And in 2002, they finally found the right place. That place was the S.H.I.E.L.D. series. If you haven't seen it, the S.H.I.E.L.D. is like a dirty bomb thrown into the police drama genre. It's violent, sweaty, and completely rotten from the inside out. At the heart of it all is Goggins, as Detective Shane Vendrell. On paper, Shane was a trap. He was a racist cop, a sidekick, someone who always got things wrong to make the main character, Vic Mackey, seem more right by comparison. In the hands of another actor, Shane would have been just a hateful character. Someone the audience would have wanted to get rid of. But Goggins found the tragedy within that man. Over 7 seasons, he transformed Shane from a simple racist into a Shakespearean tragedy. A man crushed by fate. The family scene in the final episode, where Shane's story concludes, wasn't just television acting. It was a lesson in despair. That scene is now considered one of the most haunting segments in television history. But the paradox of Hollywood is this. Instead of helping Goggins prove his versatility, The Shield nearly typecast him forever. By 2008, he had spent 7 years playing a Southern police officer who was both racist and corrupt. The industry didn't see the subtlety in his acting, nor did they see a Greek tragedy. They only saw a Southern thug. To them, he had become toxic in the casting system. Directors couldn't separate the real him from the characters he had played. He was no longer Walton Goggins, the Oscar-winning producer, but simply Shane Vendrell, the murderous cop. He had fallen straight into the trap of being typecast. And to escape, he had to do something dangerous. Return to the very type of character that was holding him captive, and rewrite it from the inside. That's when Justified came along. When the offer came in 2010 to play Boyd Crowder, Goggins initially refused. He told showrunner Graham Yost that he didn't want to play a white extremist who was simply a white extremist. He understood that if he played another idiot country bumpkin, his serious acting career would be over. He would be typecast forever. By refusing to play the villain as a monster, Goggins made the audience start liking the character. And more importantly, he forced the writers to change. Boyd Crowder couldn't die in episode 1 anymore, because he had become the most interesting character in the show. Throughout 6 seasons, Goggins was no longer a supporting character. He became a co-main character, standing alongside Timothy Olyphant, Hollywood's quintessential perfect male lead, and often stole the show with just a smile. By 2012, he had become a familiar face in the FX action movie world. The industry saw him as a creature of violence. So, when Kurt Sutter, the creator of Sons of Anarchy, one of television's most masculine series, invited him to star, when invited to make a guest appearance in Sons of Anarchy, everyone thought Walton Goggins would play a familiar role, a gangster, a country bumpkin, or another version of Shane Vendrell. But Goggins made a completely different choice. He wanted to play Venus Van Dam, a transgender sex worker. In the hands of another actor, this role could easily have been a disaster, a cheap joke. In 2012, Hollywood's portrayal of transgender characters was still terrible, often exploited for humor or shock value. But Goggins didn't play Venus to be funny. He portrayed the character with respect and depth. He appeared on set with a wig, full makeup, and costume. But the important thing was that he didn't wink at the audience. He didn't make the character a joke. He approached Venus with the same tragic seriousness he had shown with Boyd Crowder. There's a scene in season 7 where Venus confesses her feelings to Tig, a member of a biker gang. Maybe I've fallen in love with you. It was a very real, very emotional moment, and it completely shattered all industry stereotypes about Walton Goggins. From that moment on, critics could no longer call him a Southern thug. You couldn't frame an actor who could seamlessly transition from a fascist bank criminal to a deeply wounded transgender woman in the same year. He officially broke Hollywood's classification system. And when that framing machine was broken, big directors started taking notice. Quentin Tarantino has a particular fondness for actors with material, faces with stories. And naturally, he was drawn to Goggins. Tarantino cast him in Django Unchained, then gave him a major role in The Hateful Eight, placing him alongside Samuel L. Jackson and Kurt Russell. And Goggins didn't just exist within that cast. He dominated the film's climax. Being called a generational talent by Tarantino is a significant sign in Hollywood. It shows Goggins is no longer just a television actor. He is a film actor. But the real peak of the anti-typecasting battle came in 2024 with Amazon's Fallout. The Ghoul character was almost the final test for Goggins. On paper, this was a typical villainous role for a veteran actor, covered in layers of makeup, noseless, face completely ravaged by time. By Hollywood standards, this character should have been considered ugly and difficult to empathize with. But the opposite happened. The internet didn't see the Ghoul as a monster. They saw him as a captivating character. Because after 30 years of playing stereotypical roles, Goggins had perfected the ability to pierce through the makeup with his voice and demeanor, a kind of weary, dangerous, yet captivating cowboy. He transformed a monster into one of the most compelling characters on streaming television. Walton Goggins never had his teeth fixed. He didn't have hair transplants. He didn't learn to speak in a standard Hollywood way. He looked straight into the boxes the industry tried to cram him into: racist, country bumpkin, villain. And he burned them all to ashes. His career proves one thing: the standard of perfection is an illusion. Symmetry is boring. Perfection is forgettable. Audiences don't watch movies to see algorithmic characters. They watch to see real people, their flaws, their quirks, and their unique personalities. Hollywood spent 30 years trying to relegate Walton Goggins to a supporting role. But in the end, they realized the worst thing: he was always the main character from the start.